Oh, well, hi, everybody. Welcome to the ROI group for June. We've got one more session for the group next month in July, and then we take a break in August because that's a holiday month. And there you go. That's what is important. So I take 2 breaks a year, August being one of them because it's a big holiday month. You know, if you ever visit Paris, France in August, you won't find anybody there in normal circumstances. They've all gone. And the French have it right. They take pretty much the whole month off and take it easy. So no ROI group meeting in August. And then we'll have regular meetings in September, October, November. And then again, none in December because that's Christmas time and people just want to be with their families and starts to get cold, right? So today I'm going to share my screen with you. Just bear with me for a minute while I try and get that right. Today we're going to talk about really one thing, but it's got sort of 2 elements to it. And I told you all, I guess, with an email that I sent everybody that we were going to talk about renting water. And, you know, people have been asking, what the heck is renting water? You know, I just made that up. And we're going to talk a little bit about bunkies and tiny homes and glamping and stuff like that. And what we're going to do is we're going to start with the tiny home bunkie cabin in the woods thing, which I'm going to talk about. And then right after that, Corey Walker. Corey, say hi to everybody.
Hi, everybody.
My young friend, Corey. There you go. My young friend, Corey, is going to talk about something really quite cool. All right, and that has to do with renting water, and I really like his model, and we're going to hear a lot more about it. So I promise not to take up too much time, Corey, and then we'll get to you. So I'm going to tell everybody that when I put something on my blog that has the 2 words in it, tiny homes, it gets 20, 30, 40 times the number of readers and anything else. You know, I put lots of stuff on my blog and on my social media, and some of it gets some attention, you know, especially if I comment on hockey, you know. But if I put something about tiny homes on there, it's just unbelievable, the interest in it. And millennials and Gen Z, their interest in smaller eco footprint, smaller living, smaller homes, work from home, technology is completely off the charts. So for us as real estate investors, as real estate developers, I think there is a business model in all of this. And hopefully by the end of today, you guys will agree that there's some kind of a business model in here that might work for you. And you might need some help from Corey Walker. All right. So I think most of you know that I have a project going on called the Barndominium. And actually, Corey Walker is working out of there, and I see Arnaud. Hi, Arnaud Prati here. He's our e-catamaran builder. He works out of there. But I wanted to show you guys what it looked like when I first bought it. And I'm going to talk a little bit about it, and you can say, what the heck does this have to do with tiny homes and glamping and all the rest of it? But you'll see, if you give me a few minutes, I'll kind of, like I said, I'll bring it all together. So actually, I built this barn 25 years ago. And it actually was located on another property, and the developer there was going to tear it down. I said, oh, don't do that. It's a beautiful structure. Let me come with a crew. I'll take it down piece by piece, and I'll put it up at Dunrobin Lake, a property I own. So it was a wonderful structure, and it was really just a playpen for my 5 kids back in the day. And then when the Sens went bankrupt in the mid-2000s, I think most of you guys probably know, you've heard my sob story before, you know, I had to kind of start my career over, and a lot of the properties that I owned ran away. Well, about 3 or 4 years ago, this came on the market for sale, and it had been on for sale, I think, for like over a year. Like, you can see the condition of it. I've got a few more slides here. This is what it looked like inside. Okay. Arnaud, can you believe that compared to what it is today? So this is what it looked like when I bought it back. Not when I owned it. This is the loft space. This is just a picture I took down into the main hall. It was the people who owned it. You know, I often call you know, real estate your Maserati, and you've heard me say this before. You know, people who own a Maserati, I would never buy a Maserati. They're like $500,000 or more. But if you bought a Maserati, you'd probably be out there polishing it every weekend. You know, you'd only take it out on a nice day in the summer, and you would treat it really nice. And I have found that people spend more time with their Maseratis, polishing their Maserati, or with their dogs than they do with their real estate. And so when people call me, and I had a call like this yesterday, say, I'd like you to do some real estate coaching, Bruce. I said, oh, great, that's what I do. And they said, but I don't want to do any work. I said, I'm glad you said that because I can't help you. There's no such thing as a work-free, stress-free business. If you want something that's work-free and stress-free, buy a treasury bill or something like that and get 1% on it or whatever. But real estate requires work, I'm afraid. So this is what it looked like when we took it over 3 years ago. And you can see this. This is what it looks like today, you know, and it is, you know, I'm patting myself on the back, I'll admit that. But, you know, I wanted you to see that, you know, taking care of real estate is like taking care of your Maserati. If you have a $500,000 property, treat it like treat it at least as well as you treat your dog. I mean, your dog doesn't make you any money usually, but your real estate might. And this is the lake that I developed. This is a subdivision with, you know, in 2 phases, has about 60 or 70 homes. And this is the entrance to the barndominium today. We put in a boat ramp here for you, Arnaud, basically because Arnaud, this is a pond right next to the barndominium, and Arnaud is an e-catamaran builder, actually in the building as well, so he can launch his boats here. And you can see that we're, you know, we're graveling a large parking lot, but the part of the reason why we're doing that, and this is how I come back to the tiny home idea, is we're going to build a 548 square foot bunkie right here. And what I have been finding is, I mean, and Corey, you were the one who twigged me to this, the number of times I got asked the question, can I work in the barndominium and can I live in the loft? And I don't want to do that. Corey actually asked me that, and I said, no, we can't. We could convert the loft in the barn into a nice 2-bedroom apartment, but I won't do that. Number one, because of safety issues. You know, a workshop has, you know, Corey is a welder, Arnaud is a boat builder, we have a carpenter, we have importer, exporter. I mean, we have all kinds of people there. We have a dog training school in here. And when you combine commercial and residential, the fire separation is really quite onerous. So that isn't going to work. But having a bunkie here and the opportunity to work here is, I think, a very powerful combination. So that's what we're doing. Now we're just prepping the site as we go. So most of you guys know what my method of acquiring property is. I buy things that no one else wants. Literally, I do that. And I'm looking especially for long days on the market, right? DOM stands for days on market. I want property that I can buy wholesale. My dad told me when I was much younger that in real estate, you want to be a wholesale buyer as opposed to a retail buyer. Like the idea in Ottawa and in some of the other hot markets in North America that you would put in an offer with 30 other people does not appeal to me and probably shouldn't to you either. And you make money in real estate when you buy, not when you sell. So you have to buy smart, all right? That's really important. Don't overpay. And here's the next thing that I teach everybody, only buy with a real estate business model in mind. Like just to buy to have an empty building is kind of a dumb idea. But did I do that with the barndominium? No, I broke all of my own rules. And it was an emotional purchase, right? I built the thing, it had fallen into terrible disrepair. The former owner was obviously not taking care of it and it was hurting me. And so I bought it back. But this is something you probably shouldn't do, make an emotional purchase. So now I own the barn and I go, what the heck do I do with it? So I thought, I'll turn it into a home. You know, it's going to be a really funky home. And it turned out to be too expensive. Like that would have been, I might as well have knocked it down and started over. And I wasn't going to do that. And then I said, I could make it into a place for my coaching, right? And I could have 50 or 60 people in there. Then the pandemic struck and nobody wants to live coaching, that's for sure. Then I thought, I'll turn it into a storage building. So I did 3 pivots, all of them unsuccessful. And there were just too many storage places in the area. And, you know, I put it up on Kijiji, you know, anybody want storage? I got a barn. No, nobody. I don't think I had one call. Maybe I had one. I don't know. And then because some of my other clients were doing micro workshops, small workshops in storage, I thought, what the heck, I'm going to try that. So that was, I think, my 4th pivot. And then after a 2 or 3 month lease up period, we had Corey there and Arnaud there and a bunch of other people there. But what's missing was the live on site option, right? And so anyway, I'll just show you a few more pictures now of what the barndominium looks like. We have an overhead door that's keypad controlled. We have a new front door that's keypad controlled. We have a heating system in there. We have some storage lockers here. We have some workshops in there. We have a full bathroom in there and a shower that works, right, Corey?
Great.
Yeah. And we have a little kitchen in here. It's not really a kitchen, but you know, it's kind of a, I don't know, you can, I don't know, that might be a microwave. So you could probably, you know, make some coffee or something like that. So it is what it is. This is the loft today. And the loft, by the way, is rented to a dog training school, which is a great use, I think, for it. And if you can see all the white pine flooring here, all of that white pine flooring came from my house in Arlington Woods. My house was one of the ones in Ottawa that got whacked by the tornado, and I had 18 100-foot tall white pines on the property. Every one of them came down, unfortunately. Beautiful trees. And so rather than just junking them, we turned it into lumber. We've been using it ever since, and there's a floor. This was the barndominium, you know, within a few weeks after I actually built it. So this picture, Corey, is you know, it's probably 25 years old, and you can see what it looked like when we finished. It was really quite pretty. And so I wanted to show you guys what I'm building right next to the barn. So I will have some kind of a live work condition. It's a 548 square foot, 2-room or 3-room bunkie. It's on helical piles, so it has a permanent foundation and has quite a nice L-shaped deck. The deck and the corner windows face the pond, which I think is nice, and it faces west. So if Corey and Arnaud and I, at the end of this season, get a chance to have a beer together at the barndominium, you know, assuming that it's legal to do so, this is where we'll sit and watch the water and the sunset and drink some beer. It has a cathedral ceiling in it, and this is the floor plan. And I have to tell you, this was done by Dustin Poole, who is a brilliant young designer. He's an architectural technologist. And the only problem with Dustin is he's too successful and too busy. He's just a wonderful designer. So he worked on this with my wife, Dawn, and it has a woman's touch to it. Let's see. The front door is here. The 2 windows that I showed you overlooking the pond are here. The deck will be around here like that, so it's an L-shaped deck. So you come in the front door, there's a bathroom there. I think that's a utility cupboard there with kind of doors that do that. It's kind of a weird system, but it works well. You come into a living dining room area. You've got a sort of a micro kitchen down here. And do you guys notice how many doors there are? There's the front door. There's a door to get onto the deck, which overlooks the pond. And then there's a door to the bedroom. So the bedroom has a pocket door to go into the main living area, but you can get in and out of the bedroom without going through the public areas, right? So there you go. And just so you guys know, in design, every time you add a door to your property, instead of just another window, but a door with lights in it, with glass in it, you're going to add value, in my opinion. So this is a really, really good design. And Dawn, my wife Dawn, and Dustin worked on it for quite some time. Some of you have probably already seen the 21-second animation of what it will look like. It's not exactly what it will look like, but it's pretty close, so I'm going to just play. It's only 21 seconds. And Arnaud, this was done, and Corey, this was done by Ian Lawford, who is a master timber framer, as you guys know, and he's also a tenant in the barndominium. He's an amazing animator. So you get a sense of what this might look like when it's finished. All right, enough of that. See if I can get to the next one. Now, I wanted to show you this slide. This is a picture of me, actually, a little bit younger. And this is how I look every time before I meet with a municipal planner, right? So every time I meet with a planner, the only 3 words that I ever seem to hear from the planner is, "We have concerns." These are the 3 words in the English language that developers like me hate the most. We have concerns. So this is what I look like when I go into any of these meetings, and this is what I look like after I leave. So as most of you on this call know, I do tend to tangle a little bit with planners because I really think that the Planning Act and the number of bylaws and ordinances we have in Canada, the United States, has really gotten out of control, and it's limiting our options. You know, on this property, I have the right to have the barn because it's commercial. I have commercial zoning, and I have the right to have one accessory dwelling unit, but not 10 of them. Right? I mean, if I had, you know, it's the total ownership in this area by me now is 12 acres. If I had the right, I would probably put 20 of these bunkies there, but I only have the right to put one on this particular property together with the barn. So that is what it is. I can't say that I really agree with that. And this is the last comment I'm going to make before I turn it over to you, Corey. And most people ask me, why can't we do whole subdivisions of tiny homes and bunkies and stuff like that? Because there is real demand, not just from younger people, as I mentioned earlier, but also from you know, from older people. Some older people would be quite happy to live in a tiny home or a 2-bedroom or 3-room bunkie, you know, for 6 months, and then go to Florida or go to Arizona for another 6 months, assuming that one day we can resume travel. And here's why. Governments, and not just in Canada, but in the United States too, not everywhere, but in most of the United States, and certainly much, if not all of Canada, you know, RVs, tiny houses are plated as homemade RVs. It's just like you buy a plate, you know, for a commercial truck. It's a one-time purchase. It's not too expensive, and that's it. And because they're on wheels, they can't be assessed for property taxes, right? And what do governments like the most? They like 2 things: money and power, right? And they're connected. And so what happens is, if you proposed, or I proposed, a subdivision of tiny homes, they would say, oh, well, you know, it's going to detract from property values. But that really isn't the real reason, I don't think. It's because they can't assess them for property taxes because they're plated as homemade RVs. So I think we have a lot of work to do, especially the younger people on this call, over the next 2 or 3 generations, to see if we can rewrite some of these zoning bylaws, which are overly prescriptive, in my opinion. All right, so here's the big unveiling. Corey, over to you, brother.
Thank you, Bruce. Thank you very much. Just going to talk to everybody today about a little project I've been working on. Bruce and I have been very excited about telling everybody about this. Basically, we want to float lodges. We want on-the-water style living for a great price. Basically, this business model is geared to create a large cash flow very fast, and I just want everybody to know that we're ready and willing to give a great offer for leasing opportunities and to build this thing.
So Corey, when you and I first talked about it, you know, when you told me you're a welder and you build barges, I think I was the one who asked you, could you put a cabin on it? You said, yeah, sure.
Absolutely.
And I think that's how the idea for floating lodges came about. But I didn't come up with the name Flodges. I think you did.
Yeah, I was kind of just thinking one night how we could combine the 2 words of floating and lodging, and I kind of just came up with it, and we went with it.
And there's some other words you came up with too, which I really like.
Yeah, there's a few. There's flamping, which would be floating camping. I would be probably the first flandlord out there. And yeah, also.
So flodges, flamping, and flandlord.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, okay. And just so everybody on the call knows, Corey is going to trademark those so everybody can use them, right? And right. You own 3 domains, I think, as well.
Yeah, we own the domains flodges.com, flodges.ca, and flodges.org.
Very cool. And just to go back to the very first slide here, so everybody, what Corey is getting at is, let's say, you know, let's say Marla, you owned this particular, you know, location, you know, resort. Oh, sorry. I don't do that. It does that automatically. You know, how cool it would be if you owned a cottage or you owned a resort and you could anchor some of Corey's flodges, you know, offshore. I think that's the next craze that Corey's referring to. So let's go to the next slide, Corey. Oh, this is the one where you wanted to show, I think you wanted to show, it was this, right?
That's correct. So I post this link to the slide so that so people could see that Airbnb is doing this kind of thing already. and it's becoming more and more popular all the time. It's probably a good time to get in there and try to brand it and make a business model that's going to work really well.
Yeah, I didn't know that Airbnb already had. Nobody's calling them flodges though. That's your lingo, right?
That's the link, yeah.
Yeah, that's your lingo. Did you notice the fish, Corey?
I did not notice the fish.
Come on, I got to show you this because you're a fishing guy too. Sorry guys, I'm going to play it one more time. Watch as the last slide comes up. There's a fish, Corey. I was sure you had put that in there, but I guess not. You see it?
Oh no! Oh, it jumped to the next.
It jumps out of the water. Isn't that cool?
Very cool. Very cool.
Yeah, that's awesome. All right, so let's go back to this thing. All right, go to the next one. Okay, over to you, Corey.
All right, this is Bon Cher and Frontenac. This is the southwest area of Ottawa, about an hour and a half away from Ottawa. There's over 1,000 lakes in this area, and the opportunities for business are endless. The opportunities for launching, flodging are endless. The cottage companies and the people just looking for a new experience and something fun to do, it's all over that area.
Yeah. So just before we go on, we got a question here. From, I guess, Dave Bush, it would be Dave. What are the property laws around launching these?
Well, there's no property laws. From what we've learned, we are launching them as houseboats. So licensed and plated as a houseboat. There's no real rules against it unless you're trying to engineer your anchoring permanently.
Yeah, and so I think, Dave, we've asked Steve Shepard. I guess you guys all know that I have two sponsors for the ROI group. One is Steve Shepard, a lawyer for SKS Law, founding partner there, and Matt Slobodian, a genius when it comes to financing multi-res. And I'm grateful every time I do this. I'm grateful to them for helping out. So Steve is going to do some research on this, some more research on the legals of it, but. We believe that it would be very similar to what like an ice fishing hut. You know, you have to plate them. It's a one-time cost. It's not very expensive. I don't know what it costs for a plate, but it's not very expensive. So whether it's a floating houseboat or it's a ice fishing hut, because you can certainly fish from these things. You know, I think that's how it will.
I could just say, as soon as he started generating revenue, somebody would say something, and that's why I asked the question now.
No, it's a very good question, Dave, and I know you like detail, right?
Yeah,
so that's okay.
Thanks.
So I have another question from Hugh for you, Corey, and then Robin has a question too. But Hugh asks, how is drinking water handled, and how is septic handled?
Those are awesome questions, and I have answers for both of them. Drinking water is going to be provided from a freshwater holding tank. Very simple. Everything's going to be powered by a DC solar power. And the septic systems are all going to be composting toilets, which will be serviced in between the guests. Very easily.
And Robin asked, have you built one, or are you still looking for your first sale?
We are still looking for our first sale. This is a brand new idea, and this is why we're here. Yeah.
I mean, if you want to buy one, Robin, let us know. Okay, and what are the price points? Okay, Hugh, you asked what are the price points. We're coming to that. All right, so let me go back to Corey's slides. Okay, hang on a sec, guys. We're doing good, Corey. We're getting through it. All right, I think this is Marla's place.
This is Marla's place.
Do you want to talk to this slide, Corey?
Yeah, for sure. So this is this is Bob's Lake Cottage and Resorts. This is a client we've been working with recently. We're going to be launching Flodge #1 potentially on this lake, and hopefully others in the future. Very beautiful place. Visited it just recently looking for potential spots to launch them and just to check out the general vibe of the area, and we love it. We love it there. This is the staple type of place that we're going to be targeting for this business. It's because it's a great way to, one, expand your business out into the water and drive traffic because of this new type of activity, adventure.
And Corey, this is a picture of you catching a fish. What is that?
That fish is a northern pike.
Yeah, I thought it was pike.
I'm fishing from one of Arnaud's inflatable electric catamarans.
So well, I think the idea too, guys, is that if anybody was interested in one of these flodges, it's a floating barge with a bunkie on it. But the idea would be that it would have one of Arnaud's e-catamarans, electric catamarans. Arnaud, you want to unmute yourself and talk about it for a sec?
Oh yeah, so thank you for that. Yeah, of course, everybody can take a look on what we are doing on our website, which is e-catamaran.ca. And so we are building some high design catamaran. It's kind of electric pedal boats. So but you can choose to have pedals. You can choose to pedal or just to use the handlebar if you want. So the electric engine. And yeah, we have one model like you can see on the photos with Corey on top, which is an inflatable model, which is also foldable. So it's very easy to use anywhere you want, but especially for the Canadian weather. I mean, the question with boats is always the same. What can I do with my boats during winter time? And so with our solution, you can put your boat, it's a 10-foot boat, so it's pretty huge. And you can put it on a garage, on the back of your garage. So, well, especially for the Corey project, I think it's a good idea for winter time.
Thank you very much. So we got lots of questions, Corey, and everybody just keep adding the questions to the chat box. We are going to get to every single one of them, time permitting, and just keep going. We won't miss any of the questions that you put in there, and that's very helpful to Corey. And Corey, just so you know, doing this presentation will help you in some ways. Obviously, we're hoping to get a few sales out of it for you, but we're also hoping that we'll learn something. And often when you get a bunch of smart people like are on this call asking questions, it actually refines the offering. So anyway, talk about why this will work.
Yeah, so basically the reason this is going to work is because this is who I am. I'm on the water and I'm also a builder. So being a guide in the sport fishing industry for 8 years now or so, and also for the same time being a welder and a builder, it just made a lot of sense for me to try to combine these together and make a business that's going to work from it.
So when Corey says he's a fishing guide, this is a very important element of the whole flodges thing, is that what comes with a flodge is you've got a barge in the cabin, and you can rent it out, and hopefully an e-catamaran from Arnaud and his company. And Arnaud, if you don't mind, just put in the chat box your URL. I know you said it on the for the tape, but can you just put it in your URL and also your email if you don't mind, just so if people want to reach out to you, they can. And Corey, you might do the same thing. Put in the chat box your email and cell number too, just so if people want to reach out to you afterwards, they know where to find you.
Absolutely.
All right, so you do that for a second. So one of the things I wanted to really emphasize at this point is Corey's model is a good model, because what people really want these days is, obviously they like glamping and they like small and they like, eco and all this other stuff. Great, it's all very important, but they also want an experience. Now, for somebody like me who doesn't really know much about fishing, to have somebody who is a true fishing guide come either in the summer when I'm learning how to fish or in the winter when I'm ice fishing and teach me is really important. So just having a facility by itself is not enough, you guys. It's a facility with an experience. When you combine a facility, which is great, like a flodge, with an experience, that's even better. All right, and that's what Corey is on about. All right, let's go to the next slide, Corey.
All right.
All right, what's this one about?
These are types of pictures that I've taken over the past couple of years of places I've been and things I've done. I really picture these type of places and people being involved with this project. Outdoor people, fishing people, people looking for a new adventure. And this is me. This is my
So
boots.
you did have another word. It's right on the screen here.
Flodgers.
Yes. I mean, you've got a whole lingo that goes with it, which is really important for branding. It really is. And somebody's asking, Corey, for your website. It's going to be flodges.com, I think.
That's correct. It'll be flodges.com, and we should be launching within a week or so.
So can you put flodges.com, but also your email address in there?
Yep, absolutely. I'm doing that in a chat. I'm working on a chat right now.
Okay. All right. Very good. All right. So we'll go to the next slide then. All right. Let's see what's next. Holy smokes.
So this is my passion, obviously, and my life. I've been fishing my whole life, working at many different places, many different kinds of places in many different parts of Canada. And I want to make this my own. I want this to be a part of this business. And
well, think about this, Corey. If people come here, they come here, they don't have to learn fishing and they don't have to fish. But if they did, you're not only giving them an accommodation, you're giving them a meal.
Yeah, absolutely. Or at least a good time.
There you go. All right, what's this one about?
This is also just explaining that aside from flodging, I'm going to be providing sport fishing, guided sport fishing experience. Basically combining my two passions again together. Just some more photos.
I've got a question here from Marla for you, Corey.
Absolutely.
I'm looking for someone to run my ice fishing program and potentially live on site during the program. And here's a marketing idea. I've heard of a number, I've had a number of TV fishing shows. How about one about flodges?
Marla, that would be amazing. Actually, I've been thinking of lots of different ways to try to promote this, and advertising through a fishing TV show or something along those lines would be incredible. Would be actually really incredible.
So Marla wants to put you on her website as a fishing guide. Well, I'll leave it to you afterwards, Marla, to work that out with Corey. He only wants $1,000 an hour. It's very inexpensive, right, Corey?
Very, very inexpensive.
A couple of questions from this one from Bayer.
Okay.
How are lake waves handled? I mean, how does the barge perform in waves?
So waves are a good question, and obviously a very regular obstacle that's going to be faced. I believe that the units that we're building are going to be large enough and stable enough and anchored properly enough that they're going to be very stable.
Yeah, and something you told me too, Corey, is that you do not recommend towing them out into the middle of Lake Superior and anchoring them there.
Well, you'd need some pretty long chains.
Yeah, pretty long. I mean, for everybody, what Corey told me is the best location for the summer and winter is a bay. Like it can withstand, apparently the barges can withstand lake ice, but not if it's in the middle of a lake and the ice is moving around too much. But in a bay, it probably will sustain itself.
That's right. In any river situation where there's lots of current, then it would probably wreak havoc on the barge for sure.
Yeah. Another question you got again from Bayer. Can you put a floating restaurant, a bar, where people can come with their kayaks and boats for a bite or a drink? I hadn't thought of that, Bayer.
You can put absolutely anything on a barge, but you're going to have to follow local guidelines and regulations.
Yeah, I think that might be a stretch there, but that's a really cool idea. There is a restaurant and a refueling site on the Rideau Canal that's in Ottawa, which is very successful. At least it was before the pandemic. I'm not sure what it's doing now, but that's a really cool idea. And then Marla raises a question. How do you prevent, people from being too loud on these things? You get somebody on the boat that parties.
Yeah, no, this is a common question that I've had raised from lots of different people I've been talking to about this. Basically, my answer becomes the same every time, is that any place that you have cottagers or flodgers or partiers or whatever, there's always going to be people that are going to be loud. And I guess when it comes down to it, it no matter where you go and where you're camping or what you're doing, there's always going to be those people that are going to be loud, and you're going to take care of them the same way as you would take care of any partiers at a cottage that are disturbing the
So Marla, I have some experience with Airbnb, and one of the things that Airbnb does allow a landlord to do is to screen their clients. And for example, in the Airbnbs that my wife and I run, we do not accept any guests that have not been reviewed by landlords. And the reason for that is we just can't take the risk. We have expensive properties, and if they get messed up, it's a problem. Having said that, clients of mine have had issues with that. Even though they do the careful checking and they look at the reviews, etc., things can get out of hand. There was one of my clients had guests come in there, and there was a shootout. So whenever you run a resort or a camping site or a houseboat rental or whatever it might be, there is a risk of misbehavior. I don't know if you could 100% get rid of that. So far, knock on wood, my wife and I have not had any issues with it. And Airbnb is very good to screen out people who are troublesome, but nevertheless, it can happen. Another question we had here, Corey, was, what was it? Oh yeah, from Dave Bush, another one. What's the loading capacity? How many people can you have on a barge?
Okay, so we're designing these and engineering them to fill. There won't be any weight problems with the number of occupants. Basically, you're only going to be able to occupy the limited number of people per flodge. So let's say there's sleep 6, maybe you can have 8 to 10 people, but there won't be any load restrictions people wise, because the barges that we're building are super buoyant and we're not going to under engineer them.
But you would have a limit for sure on the number of people allowed aboard.
Absolutely, absolutely. But there is no fear of overloading either way, because we're already going to be over engineering the buoyancy.
So Marla's asking how many people could sleep in it. Marla, in my little, bunkie that I showed earlier, which is really 3 rooms, a bathroom, a living room, dining room, kitchen area, and a bedroom. It is actually set up for 2 beds in the master bedroom, or the only bedroom, and then a pull-out, so it can sleep 5. But I don't know how many you're thinking of on a flodge, Corey.
Well, basically, to answer that question, we can build any size accommodations and put it on the water. So if you feel like you want a 6-person cabin on the water or an 8-person cabin, you feel you have the need for a 10-person cabin, we can make it happen. We just need funding.
Yeah. So what is happening on this slide? I think I see you down here, I think.
Yeah, this slide is one of the websites I've been featured on at a lodge I used to work. So the first one down below the fishing numbers, somebody did a review. It just said, it was great to fish with you, and can't wait to come back next year. And then there's a picture of me bottom right on the next slide. That's me on their website. I don't know why they chose me, but I thought that was really great, and I kind of put that in my portfolio, and I use it from time to time.
I think it also helps that you're a nice-looking young man. You're good PR for them.
Thanks.
All right. So Flodges has the potential to scale up and expand to other parts of the world. Corey's already said he owns some 3 domain names, flodges.com, which is great that you got flodges.com, .ca.
Yeah, unreal. That's thanks to you, Bruce.
I think it might have been, but no, I think you came up with that.
No, but you got me to chase the domain names. I think that was very clever.
Yeah, well, I wanted to. I mean, for $30, you might as well, right? And I totally believe in over the water living. I'll show you a slide on that in a minute. This is a slide actually I put in here for Corey. So I've been, I'm a coach, and I'm just helping Corey out because he's a tenant of mine, and we become friends as well. I did quite a bit of work in Belize, which is a small country in Central America. And it's the only country in Central America where English is the official language. And over-the-water bungalows, over-the-water living is huge. I couldn't believe. I mean, when they told me they were getting $1,000 a night, I didn't stay there. It was too
How
expensive.
many years ago was that too, though, too, Bruce?
Ooh, I don't want to say.
Yeah, okay.
It's probably 8 years ago now. So I don't know. Maybe it's $1,500 a day. I don't know. After the pandemic, all bets are off. But this was, if you're going on your honeymoon, this was a place to really enjoy life. So Marla, I do think that there's some, obviously, I mean, I see all the comments. There's obviously concerns about, is this legal? What will the neighbors think? Et cetera. I hear that a lot. I get that. But if they could do it in Belize, maybe we could find a way to do it in Canada, the United States, and and it will provide a really nice experience, and hopefully not for $1,000 a night. I mean, might be a little less than that, right? And I put in some slides here. I don't even know if I showed you these, Corey, but this is a friend of mine, Chris Cochran, who is, I think, the general manager and one of the founding partners of Whispering Springs. And the interest in glamping is off the charts, as I said at the start. And this year they're just opening them now. I think at some point in June. These are like glamping in the treetops. I mean, so there's a real hunger for something different. That's why when I asked Corey, could you put a cabin on a barge and float it off of a cottage or resort? He said, yeah, I could do that. This is the kind of thing that I think would really be incredible. So these are pictures that Chris sent me like 2 or 3 days ago. And like I said, they're still under construction. But look at how beautiful it is.
Wow.
You're up there in the trees and, you can hear the wind at night and hear the birds and smell the trees. Look at this. Isn't this fantastic? Here's one of the crews at work, and you can see this is going to be a bedroom. So this was just an earlier picture before they got them finished. And I wanted to show you this, Corey. I don't think I showed you this slide. Whispering Springs. Now it's quite close to Toronto, I think. Toronto has real money, but it's starting at $714 a night, or is that for 2 nights? It might be for 2 nights. I'm not sure. But these are not cheap, you guys. So the hunger for this kind of new experience of something that you can do with your children, or in my case, children and grandchildren, and to be on the water. I mean, it's really special, and I'm a big believer in this. So I put that in there. All right. This is your logo. I didn't do a very good job putting it in here, Corey. You want to talk about your logo?
Yeah, so we just finished this logo this week. This is the simplicity. This basically speaks of the simplicity of it all. We just want to float lodges. That's all we want to do. We just want to float lodges.
Yeah. All right, so that was beautiful. Okay, so this one is, so to answer, I think Hugh asked this question. If you wanted to buy a flodge, I think the flodge would sleep probably 5, Marla, and Corey's still working on it, so it's plus or minus, right? I think Corey can build you one and sell it to you if you wanted for $175,000. That's $10,000 off what he think it will actually be priced at, plus HST. And the HST should be something that you get back as an input tax credit. So you do have to pay it, but then you should get it back when you file your HST because it's an input tax credit. Because all of this kind of accommodation is plus HST. So you get some HST and you pay some HST. The HST you pay is an input tax credit. But Corey's also looking for something else, you guys. This is going to be a whole system marketed through flodges.com. He would like a 4% royalty on sales and 2% for marketing. So it means that you buy it, but you also are going to pay into a system that will hopefully, generate significant amount of traffic for you and sales. So I put in, these are my numbers, and you notice down here it says errors and emissions accepted, E&OE. So just warning everybody, these are very preliminary numbers. Give us another year and we'll know the numbers better. But this is what I put in here. So I show $195 a night. Don't forget, it is a summer and winter activity because ice fishing is a big thing in Canada. People come from all over the world, assuming we can get tourism going again, to go ice fishing in Canada. So we're hoping that it can generate $40,000 to $50,000 of gross income, net income of $25,000 to $35,000. Maybe the maximum is $32,000 or $33,000. There's a royalty I show in red on here. So maybe you could get about $30,000 of net income out of each one. The purchase price is $175,000. It gives you a cap rate or return on investment of around 17 or 18%, which is really good. And it might be higher than that, especially if over the water living like this becomes something of a thing in Canada, and you can get $300 a night or $400 a night, at least in the high season. It could make significant difference. So I don't really know what the ROI is going to be, but it could be decent. And then there's another model here, Marlo, that Corey has been working on, and everybody on the call has been working on, where instead of you paying him, he will pay you. So if somebody wanted to anchor one of these flodges off of their cottage or their resort, you own a cottage, say, yeah, sure, put one here. Corey will pay you $500 a month, $6,000 per year, 500 a month, yeah, times 12 is $6,000 a year, plus HST. And he will give you the 4% royalty on anything that, any income that he generates with it. And this model is very similar, not exactly the same as Cabinscape, which is run by John Lochner. And it's been very successful, and I won't go into details on it. And you'll notice at the bottom here, there's these initials here, acronym, CMRR, stands for Committed Monthly Recurring Revenues. For every flodge that you let anchor off your cottage or your resort, you get $500 a month plus HSD and 4% of whatever the sales are. So that's pretty good, and that's committed monthly recurring revenue, the holy grail, and you don't have to do any work. So if you want to do the work, you buy one and you do all the work, or most of it. If you don't want to do any of the work, you just, you rent water. That's why this whole thing started with renting water. Right, Corey?
That's correct.
All right. Now, what did I do here? I'm not sure what I did here. Oh, yeah. The other thing is Corey is looking for some startup capital. And so if you like what we're doing here, you can buy part of his company. It hasn't been incorporated yet. It's going to be called Flodges Corporation or something like that. And what Corey's trying to do is he's trying to raise $100,000, and $75,000 of that will be debt with 8% interest capitalized for 3 years, and $25,000 will be equity. So if he could find one person who wanted to chip in $100,000, they would get 20% of Flodges, and 75% would just be debt. So it would come back to them within 3 years. Right? So that's kind of what we're thinking of. But what I think makes most sense for Corey, and maybe even for the investor, is 5 positions of 20,000 each. And I said to Corey, I'm thinking that maybe there's only 4 positions available because I'm probably going to buy one. So there might only be 4. But if you were interested in working with Corey, and I think I'll probably participate, if you have $20,000 kicking around, then $6,666 is equity. You own 4% of the business, and they're preferred shares, so you are in a preferred position. And $13,333 is debt for capitalized at 8%. So you make 8% on your money, and then hopefully your equity will be worth something. So that's what we're doing, and I'm probably going to do one. I haven't committed to it yet, but I certainly committed to thinking about it. So if you're interested in that, you can let me know or Corey know. All right, Corey, what's this one about?
This was just a rough copy of a chart that I kind of created for kind of a projection. If we start launching in July, 1 flodge, 2 flodge, 4 flodges by December, 6 flodges by October, and 8 by December, roughly the amount of revenue that it can create.
So one of the things that Marla has said is that summer in Canada is 2 months and ice fishing is probably only 2 months. So what do you do for the other 8 months?
Well, ice fishing is, 2 to 3 months. The other 8 months, you mean like, so the rest of it would be summer. And then there's like a 2-month period, one before and one after the ice fishing season that they would be inaccessible. And
one of the things I think, Corey, that would help Marla and everybody on the call is that because I have more experience at this than you do in some ways, is that John Lochner and his wife with cabinscape.com, and you should check cabinscape.com, Marla, after the call is over. They are very busy summer and winter, believe it or not. So one of the things that Corey said to me, this was his idea, not mine, it's a good one, is that in the peak summer season, which I think is probably 3 months, June, July, and August, a bit in September, and the fishing season, which is probably 2 or 3 months. So in the 5 or 6 months, which are peak seasons for ice fishing and for summertime, I think you won't have any problem renting them. But Marla's quite right. In the shoulder seasons, it's tougher. And so one of the things that Corey has talked to me about is that as the season winds down, you bring the flage into the shore. And so you literally have, when you go onto a yacht, what do they call that thing?
A catwalk.
Yeah, something like that. So what I think you would end up doing, and this was Corey's idea, is that you would bring the flages in, and then they would just be ordinary, cabins that people could stay in, summer or winter. And I do think that you could find ways to make them desirable even in the shoulder seasons. And Cabinscape has been a phenomenal success. Do you know that, right, Corey?
That's right. That's right.
I mean, so Marlon, just so you know, he is like 90% occupied even in the winter. It's incredible. They've had tremendous success. So I think there's ways to do it. Now Marla says she cannot book her lakefront houses in the shoulder season. So I don't know. You should look at what John is doing with Cabinscape, because they are having success.
And also, Marla, this is a completely new experience. So there's many beautiful cabin lakefront houses out there for rent, and there's not too many flages.
Well, not too many. So you can see on the screen here, this is Corey's information. You can see a cell number there, 613-302-3977, and you pretty much all have his email because it's in the chat box. But if you don't, walkercorey5@gmail.com. And that's a nice picture of you, Corey. It really looks good.
Thank you.
So you can reach out to him if you would like to buy one, or you would like to let him anchor one off the coast of your. Think about that. If you have a cottage, Corey floats a barge and instant animation, right? So there you go.
Thank you, everyone.
So I wanted to finish off, Corey. So here's the barndominium, and then look at that. I found a flage right next to it.
Nice. Yeah, perfect spot.
I just invented that this morning. Or maybe here's another one. So how many different business models? Everybody knows that I really believe in business models, even though I broke my own rule when I bought the barndominium. When I bought the barn bag, I didn't really have a business model, and I searched for it, and that was kind of dumb. So I don't think you should buy any real estate, really, including yours truly, without a business model. And generally, I don't. But like I said earlier, the barn was was an emotional decision. So what kind of business models could we spin out of all of this? Well, I really believe in certain simplicity, which is, buy a piece of land, add a bunkie or two, plus maybe a workshop and a playland. Playland just means, like a pickleball court or something. Add a tech package. And so one of the things I talked to EJ Dalit about, she's on the call, I think, with us, is what a great business model this might be, where you just buy a cheapo piece of land, you put a bunkie or two on it, you generate some cash flow from it, and you keep some of them and sell some of them. So if you bought a cheap piece of land and you animated it with a bunkie or two, and somebody, there's a lot of people who have money but no time, they'll pay a lot of money for it. So you could maybe make $100,000 selling, lift on selling one of these. And if you did 4 of them and you sold 2 of them and kept 2 of them, that's kind of the way that you do things. The selling of something like this is your cash engine, generates some cash, and keeping them over time will build wealth for you. So that's kind of what I had in mind. So that's a very simple model. And of course, if it was waterfront, you could have a cottage and instantly animate it with a flage offshore, which you could buy, or you could allow Corey to ship one in and pay you. And that's model number 2. Model number 3 might be to do what Marla has done, and that is buy a resort and add a whole fleet of lodges, right? That would be, and she could either buy them or she could give Corey permission to float them, and she would take a piece of the action, and he would have all the work. So either one would work, I think. And maybe there's another model out of it. And this one I'm not sure about, and that is to do a whole subdivision of these things. Right, and especially if it was waterfront, so you could have a whole subdivision with bunkies and workshops, so you could live and work in the same area, and you could have a fleet of lodges. And the problem is that the issue that you're going to face is that towns and cities, counties and townships don't really understand the tiny house model. Outside of the state of Colorado. Colorado is kind of the home of where the tiny house movement got going. Tiny houses, their motto is something like less house, more life, which makes a lot of sense. But that is a struggle. That is a struggle to get townships and counties and cities and towns to understand that you're not building a ghetto. You're building a place where people can live and work and play and socialize that might be a little less expensive than, say, for example, having, a typical suburb where today in Ottawa, house prices are out of control. They're $700,000 to $1 million for a very modest house. My house is quite modest and it'd probably sell for $950,000. Wasn't worth that 2 years ago, that's for sure. And if you're a young person buying $1 million house, it does seem like a bit of a stretch. So I do think that there's other models out there, but again, it's going to have to be some of the younger people. To do a whole subdivision like this is going to take time and effort and persuasiveness and some luck to face down the existing planning system. But if you ever did get something like this done, I think it would be a mix. So some of them would be rentals, some of them would be owned, some of them would be short-term rentals, which kind of boosts your cash flow. Some of them would be long-term rentals to stabilize your cash flow, right? So there's all kinds of different mixing. And I really believe in mixing. One of the things that Paul Murphy sent me from Calabogie Peaks last week was that a number of developers in the United States are building entire subdivisions that are rentals, right? And I think that's a mistake because you don't want, in my opinion, you don't want to ghettoize renters. You want to have a combination of people who are renting and owning. It's a more stable neighborhood and probably will resist some of the downward trends better. So I think a mix is better, but I'm not underestimating, I don't want you to underestimate either the challenges of doing something like this. I think that's it. Corey, did you have anything else you wanted to add?
No, I think we covered most of it, Bruce. I think we covered most of it. Okay.
So are there any other questions for us? I mean, it looks like we can get through this in an hour instead of an hour and a half, which is great. I'm just trying to see if there are any other questions that are in the chat box.
I'm going to go through the questions after and try to answer back. Or if anybody has any more questions for me, they can email me or call me even.
So I'm gonna just mention a couple, and then we're gonna end early today, which is great.
Perfect.
Is there any geographic preference, Corey? This is from Bayer. Any preferred lake?
Yeah, no. There's no preference. We haven't really dialed into what would be the best place for flodges, but in my opinion, I think that the best places for these flodges are on quieter lakes. Where people want to escape. They want to go to the farthest cottage place they can find and go further. And in a nice quiet bay, like I said, between 5 and 25 feet of water. And hopefully there's some good fishing there. I think that's all I've really kind of based this around so far.
And something else too, Bayar, that I think is really important is I think at some point Corey should be selling his flages in the United States. I mean, in places like Florida, certainly parts of Arizona, you know, some other states, South Carolina, Georgia, you know, there's a waterfront that is open year round. So you have less of a shoulder season problem in warmer weather. And like I said, I mean, can you imagine, Corey, floating some of these or barging them over to, say, the offshore islands in Belize? I mean, to me, the offshore islands, you know, I've spent time there in Belize, are the most beautiful islands in the world, except for the South Pacific. But you can get to Belize through Atlanta in about 5 hours. To get to the South Pacific is 27 hours, right? So for most people in the United States and in Canada, getting to, you know, Central America is a little easier, and Belize, the offshore islands are fantastic. So that's another expansion, I think, for this business. All right, so if there's no other questions, it's 1:01. That is the first time we've ever ended early, but I really appreciate it. I'm just going to check one more time. Okay, we got one more question from Harsh. What would be the maintenance for the barges? What kind of cost would it cost me to maintain these things?
Well,
and what is their lifespan too? That's a good question, Harsh.
Well, that is a good question. I don't have an answer for the lifespan of these barges because we've never actually tested freezing them in the lake. We know it works. We don't know how long they're gonna last in those conditions with a house on them and being used on a daily basis. I would say that for sure they're gonna last 10 years on the paint job without any maintenance needed. And the lifespan, as long as there's light maintenance on any light damage, the lifespan is easily 25 years.
Well, that's really good.
For the barge itself.
Okay, well, this was really wonderful, Corey. You did a great job. I know making presentations isn't something that you have really specialized in, but I think you did a really good job. So everybody,
I did my best.
Good job.
Thank you.
See you all in next month in July. Thank you, Arnaud. Thank you, Marla.
Thank you, everyone, for attending.
Great to see you guys.
Have a great day.
Thanks.
Bye.
Bye.